What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Cheat Sheet. I'm Marcus Grant with Michael F. Florio. Laquan Jones is, I believe, in an airport. He might be sitting at LAX right now, if I'm not mistaken. He is on his way to Tampa. We're about a minute late, Florio, because we were before the show, me, you, and Susie talking about the pop out that happened last night. I didn't get a chance to see it. I was out, doing stuff with the fam. But I know you sat and you watched it, right? Like it everything I saw looked insane about it.
When he announced it, I was in New York and I texted Nicolette and I was like, maybe we should go. And then tickets were very expensive. And I was like, no, I'll just watch from home. And I watched all of it. And the entire time I was like, I really wish I was there because it was way better than anything I could have anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed insane. I mean, the level of it was like the NBA All-Star game on stage alone, with the level of superstars that showed up there. Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, who obviously have LA ties, but LeBron was in the crowd. It was just a level of insanity that I don't think anybody anticipated. You said you looked at tickets, right? And like last row was like $350 just to get in the building.
Which is why I was like, I don't want, and that was before fees and stuff. I was like, I don't want to spend like close to $1,000 to go to a concert. And I was like, yeah, it's going to be him and friends. Like, who's he going to bring? And oh my God, did he bring out? The funniest one to me was he brought out YG after Drake had shouted him out in the diss track against Kendrick. And like everything he did, LeBron and Drake are friends. Like everything he did was just like another layer of disrespect. And that's what it felt like last night, right? Like it was a hate festival. Like everyone was there to hate on Drake.
He basically united the entirety of the West Coast and then some. I want somebody, because the internet is undefeated. Like I'm waiting for someone on the internet to do like the Avengers in-game portal scene and just have like different rappers and celebrities like popping out or something like that. Like that seems to be the next thing there. I had this on the cheat sheet list. I didn't mean to start with it, but this is kind of how it sort of naturally happened. I mean, we were talking about this. Like, I feel like at some point Drake is going to make another song. He'll make a couple more songs. They will be popular. I mean, he is a hit maker. I think that part is sort of undeniable. But I just feel like at this point, no one is going to look at Drake the same way anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he's already teased that he's going to have like summer music coming out. I'm pretty sure in his contract, like he has to release music yearly at the rate that he keeps dropping it. But
right.
Yeah, it'll be a hit. Like you said, it'll be catchy. People will dance to it. But yeah, I feel like it's going to take a little bit. Maybe sit out the summer, Drake. Like go away for a little bit. Make people miss you, because right now, only your heart. Like I have one friend who was texting me who's a hardcore Drake fan, and he was like, the only reason people care about this is because it's about Drake. And I'm like, whether that's true or not, it's done poorly for your guy.
Yeah, it's not going well. So, we'll see what Aubrey Graham has up his sleeve. But right now, last night was sort of rough for him. Just a side note, I'm sitting here doing a live mock draft as we do this show. So if you hear me kind of pause or stutter for a minute, because right now I'm actually on the clock. In the first round, I took Puka Nacua. I'm going to come back and with the fourth pick in the second round, take Jonathan Taylor. In case you all care.
That's a fun start.
Yeah, it's a fun start. So shout out to Howard Bender and the folks over at Fantasy Alarm. They have us doing a mock draft. I think we're going to write something about it. So if you follow Howard, I'm sure there will be some content coming out around it. I'll just say there's some big hitters in here. J.J. Zacharyson, Rich Rebar, Scott Fish, just among some of the names there. Andrew Cooper, some of the guys who are involved in this whole thing there. We're going to talk a lot of stuff here. Let's kind of dive into some of these things here. First off, George Kittle, I don't know if you saw this, says that he lost almost 30 pounds after offseason core surgery. He didn't have a chance to lift. He couldn't really work out because he was still sort of recovering. He says he's working to try and gain that weight back. I always like to jokingly text or tweet about, hashtag BSOHL, best shape of his life. Losing 30 pounds does not feel like best shape of his life, though. Like, that seems sort of concerning, right?
He's in the worst shape of his life. That's what it sounds like to me. I mean, gaining weight is very, especially like muscle and stuff. Like, look, he's a world class athlete with world class trainers, so he'll be okay in the long run. But like to put on 30 pounds by September while doing training camp and all the cardio that they're going to be doing in the blazing heat, it, it's remarkable to me that like football players can keep their physique because like one thing that stood out for me when I watched The Last Dance was like they were like, yeah, Michael Jordan does so much cardio he can't put on muscle, and it's like, oh, guys, they must be eating and lifting like absolute madmen. But I am concerned about this because what makes George Kittle so great is his physicality, that he's hard to tackle, that he the yak he puts up and everything. So if he's not himself in that regard, that plus he's also coming off his best year in the last 4 years, so I wouldn't be surprised if he naturally regressed a little bit. I don't know about you, Marcus. Like, I know he goes in that middle tight end tier with like Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts. I don't find myself really drafting George Kittle much at all.
I have drafted him a couple of times. I don't know if this is going to back me off of that a little bit, and I feel like he sort of straddles that borderline of the back end of like the, if you want to call him elite, or certainly the higher tier tight ends, right? Like he is kind of at that cutoff. In part, mostly because of what the 49ers ask him to do. It's not about, I think, his skill set. I think if you line up his skill set with all the other top level tight ends, he is still on par with those guys. But, and I say this as somebody who watches the 49ers a lot, that sometimes they just will use him as a de facto sixth lineman, right? Like he's such a big part of the run game that, you know, sometimes they will just keep him in to block a lot. So he may not run as many routes as we want in fantasy, right? So it just, it's a little bit, not frustrating, but it's concerning, I think, is the best way to sort of describe it. Yeah, no, Maggie, he said he's lost almost 30 pounds. I think he's going to try. I don't think he's going to gain all 30 back. I don't know if it's healthy to try to gain 30 pounds back like that quickly. You know, but he's definitely going to try and put some of that back on, you know, try to gain that strength back. I think most importantly for him is just trying to get the strength back a little bit for him. Yeah, I think Mr. Scams makes a good point. I think it's interesting when NFL players retire. I think the offensive linemen tend to slim down, and like the guys who are smaller, like your skill position guys, tend to like kind of bulk up. I'm not bulk up, but like, you know, like they don't have to work out as much. So it's like, yeah, man, you're just gonna put on some pounds. I think it's different.
If I had to be in the best shape of my life for 10 years and be super disciplined, the moment I retired, I'd be like, I'm eating whatever I want and I do not care.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I'm just gonna like let it go. And
also, I don't know. This literally just happened after we went live, but Le'Veon Bell is randomly tweeting out shots right now against Adam Gase and his play calling.
What?
He tweeted, I still randomly think about how all caps pissed I used to be in the huddle when Adam Gase would call 21 dive on 2nd and 10. And then there's like 5 more tweets after that about how it's such a bad play call, and they would be in the huddle like, this is what the play is, and they would be like, we just need you to get to 3rd and reasonable, and like, I'm like, dude, you haven't played football in 5 years. I love that you're just on a random Thursday,
right,
sending out shots.
Like what got him so fired up this morning that he just immediately? I'm like looking through this right now, how he's just randomly taking shots. A halfback dive from shotgun. People don't understand what that fully means. Sam would be saying the play out loud, just shaking his head in the huddle. LOL. Wow. Yeah, we're going to keep an eye on this. We're going to be monitoring this situation during the day because I'm sure there's probably a whole lot more to come. We're speaking of tight ends a little bit here. This one from Jimbo. What's Brock Bowers' ceiling? Your thoughts on Brock Bowers this year?
I think his ceiling is something like a low-end tight end 1. Like, right now I'm looking at my rankings. I have him at 13, just behind Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert, Ferguson, Njoku, Evan Ingram. If he outscored Dallas Goedert, I wouldn't be surprised at all. But I don't foresee him coming in and doing anything like what Sam Laporta did last year, or maybe he could have like a Dalton Kincaid type rookie year where he has a stretch where he's really useful for fantasy, but overall more of like a low end tight end one. I like his talent a lot. I know you do as well, Marcus. I don't love the quarterback play necessarily. And I think the Raiders are going to try to be like a ground and pound team. Like that's what they want their identity to be if it's up to them. So plus Devontae Adams is going to get a 30% target share. Jacoby Myers is going to get 20%. Right there, that's half the targets accounted for.
Yeah, I mean, that's my big concern is that there's so many places to go with the football, right? You've got to feed Devontae Adams. You've got to get Jacoby Myers involved. Can Gardner Minshew support this many pass catchers in the offense? Look, I liked Michael Mayer coming out of Notre Dame. I thought he was going to be a big part of the Raider offense. I thought it was starting to happen later on in the season. Now all of a sudden he's got to compete for snaps and targets with a guy who was a monster in terms of his offensive potential, his offensive production at the University of Georgia. I just think that puts a cap on his ceiling. And I think to your point though, I think he could be a low end tight end one, but I think that's more about the fact that after a certain point, being a low end tight end one is sort of, it's a roll of the dice, right? Like there are any number of guys who can sort of slot in there. I mean, I think we were all sort of disappointed by the landing spot for Bowers because we were hoping that he would go to a place where he could, thrive. I mean, Sam Laporta was the best of everything, right? A talented player who also landed in a spot where there was no real competition for opportunity. That's not the case at all for the Raiders.
For me, the earliest I think I would take him is tight end 11 because I wanted to see if you. I think we all agree like Kincaid, Pitts, Kittle, they're all firmly ahead of him. But would you take him over any of Evan Ingram, David Njoku, Jake Ferguson?
I don't know that I would. Ingram's the one that I might think about. Just because I think what we saw from Ingram last year was sort of a product of circumstances. You had a lot of guys who were hurt, but the ADOT was really, really low for him. And so if people stay healthy and he has that similar ADOT, like I think the production goes way down. I'm still sort of in on Njoku, and I'm still sort of believing in Ferguson. But yeah, I don't know. I just maybe I'm still in my feelings a little bit. So.
No, because for me, I would take all of those guys over Bowers, and that's why 11 would be the early. Because Ferguson, I'm like, okay, he's playing with Dak as potentially his number 2 target. Like that's a way better situation. Bowers is the better talent. I'm not denying that, but quarterback play matters so much.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. A-Rod saying Minshew kept Pittman fantasy relevant. I have a feeling he can keep Myers and Adams relevant too. I think he can keep one, maybe 2 of those guys relevant. But asking him, but now if you have to go down the ladder to, a Bowers, a Myers, or a Michael Mayer, whoever, I don't really know about that necessarily at all. Another one from A-Rod. Jermaine Burton or Roman Wilson? I think I know who you like in this one, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
I do think Roman Wilson is a little bit of a sleeper because I tend to trust Mike Tomlin and the Steelers when they invest in a wide receiver, and he could be the number 2 wide receiver, probably number 3 target. But yeah, give me Jermaine Burton because I think the upside, I think he's the better prospect. I think the upside is far higher. I think Joe Burrow is a much better quarterback. And T. Higgins missed 5 games last year. Jamar Chase missed 5 games the year before that. If something like that was to happen, I think Burton is going to greatly exceed his ADP regardless, but if one of those guys misses time, we're talking about him being a wide receiver 3 with more upside.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm definitely more on the Burton side of things, mostly because the camp reports, not that anything bad has been said about Wilson, but more like when I hear things like the Steelers are still looking for a number 2 receiver, that the Steelers are still looking for a wide receiver, that when Brandon Ayuk's name shows up in trade rumors, like the Steelers are like the first ones in line potentially to make a deal for him. That to me sort of says that maybe they're not all in on Roman Wilson just yet. That's my only real concern about Wilson right now. Have you seen the Ravens' new alternate helmet?
Only because you posted it in this in the cheat sheet doc, but I don't know how to feel about it. It looks really cool to me, but I'm like, it looks also like a Pokemon card.
My first thought was like, I mean, for me watching like college football, like East Carolina, like it just felt like the East Carolina Pirates or something. Like I don't know. I felt like when I saw it posted, that the reaction was sort of mixed. Some people were like, "This is fire, I love it." Some people were like, "Pass," and I think I'm closer to pass than fire on the
It gives me like like if one of the teams in like the XFL was wearing this, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
right, right. That's yeah. I don't know if I'm totally in on this new Ravens helmet. If you guys haven't seen it, it's all purple. Like they I don't know. There's a kind of an alternate logo, an alternate Ravens logo on it. It just, I don't know. I'm not really feeling it right now. I don't know. Go look it up. You guys can put in the chat if you've seen it. Let me know what you guys think. I'm not really big on it. Um, this one from I Am Him. Have you ever played in a 16-man league, and what advice would you give in drafting a team, PPR redraft? My first thing is one, make sure you get a. I think you got to get a running back early. Just 'cause I feel like that. No, let me rephrase that. I think you get a wide receiver early because I think they're going to go quick in a 16-person league. Make sure you get yourself an elite wide receiver in the first 2 rounds because people go wide receiver heavy, and I think they're going to go away really really quickly. I don't know if you have any other advice there, Florio.
Yeah, I have played in 16 person league. I'll say they're not that much fun. People are always like it takes more skill in a really deep league, and I counter that with it the team that has the least amount of injuries almost always wins.
Yeah.
Cuz you can't replace guys when they get hurt cuz the waiver
Yeah.
wire is so thin. But because of that, my advice is to take less chances. Like I know I'm the guy that's always like grab an upside guy, and that is how I play 12 team leagues, but in 16 team leagues sometimes guys who are just more consistent and play to the back of their card are a better option than taking a gamble early. Because again, the waiver wire is going to be insanely thin. It's not like you can replace people easily.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Do we like Najee or Warren more? Say what you want about Arthur Sith, which he was sort of evil last year. Arthur Smith, but he made running a highlight in Atlanta. Are you team Najee or team Jalen Warren?
I'm team Jalen Warren because I know I just said, oh, don't take as much risk. But yeah, I'm going to go with the upside there. And Jalen Warren, I believe, is the better pass catcher. He's more explosive. He definitely has more burst and more big playability. Najee Harris is more of the steady floor guy. Like he's going to get a consistent workload every week. He'll probably get the goal line work most weeks. But those big weeks that could kind of change things, that Jalen Warren is that guy. Although I wouldn't be surprised at all, Marcus, and you could tell me if you think I'm wrong, but if this backfield operates pretty similarly to how it did last season.
I think it kind of will. I am definitely more Jalen Warren than Najee Harris because I think he's more explosive. I'm also not one of those people who's like, hey, man, he was really great. He should get more touches. Like, I think he really works in the role that he had last year. Now, if something happens to Najee Harris, then he gets more opportunity, and I think that's a good thing. But I think his value is staying in that same role but remaining as explosive and productive as he did last year. I don't want this to be a Tony Pollard situation, right? Where he was like,
Yeah.
he was really great, and then he gets a whole lot more touches, and then it's just not cool. It's not great at all for him. Let's see next one. Oh, the Chiefs Super Bowl ring. They had a typo on it. So here it is. It's first off, it's their third ring in 5 years, so nobody's really feeling bad about the Kansas City Chiefs. But it lists all the teams they beat in the playoffs, and it has the Dolphins listed as a 7 seed when they were really a 6th seed in the playoffs. Travis Kelce says the ring error makes it more exclusive, which at first I was kind of like, yeah, he's sort of right. And then I'm like, wait a minute, it's already an exclusive Super Bowl ring. They're not just like handing these out on the street. What are you doing?
My thing is like, okay, you got their seed wrong, but it was round 1. So you guys know what seeds you are. Like you knew who I know they're so used to being a top 2 seed every year and getting the number 1 seed every year, blah blah blah. You guys were the 3 seed. Like, come on.
That sounded like some Bills frustration right there. That's what that sounded like.
Just a little.
But it did, like, when I read the thing about it makes it more exclusive. Are you old enough to remember the infamous Billy Ripken baseball card that became a collector's item?
No.
So Bill Ripken, the brother of Cal Ripken, And an okay major league career. Definitely not as good as his brothers. But he had a baseball card where it's him holding a bat, and on the bottom of the bat was written an expletive. Um, F face, F dot 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 face was written on the handle of the
Oh,
bat.
I'm looking at it right now.
And like a few of those like slipped through and made it out into circulation. It got caught. They, I think they made a new one where they just blurred it out and you couldn't see it. But if you have one of the original ones, it's worth a little bit extra because it somehow slipped through all the editors a little bit and made it out into the world. That's kind of what I thought. Like that is a collector's item. Like that is something that's exclusive because it was a major mistake that somehow got through and got out.
I love like when the car companies will like print like a name wrong or something like that. You would think, and everyone would be like, "Why would I want this? It's wrong." But in actuality, it just everyone wants it, and its value goes through the roof.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely it blows up the value of it because it is. You realize like it's a mistake and hey man, like this is potentially something that could be worthwhile here. By the way, I'm on the clock in the 6th round, and I have no idea who I want to take. Like it's
You went from the 2nd to the 6th round pretty quick.
yeah, this thing's moving really, really quick. It's like a 2-minute timer, and I don't think anybody's taking close to 2 minutes. I don't love what I'm gonna do here in the 6th round. I'm already just telling you that right now. I just took Aaron Jones. I don't love it. I don't love it.
It's hard to host a show and draft at the same time.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled with this draft right now. Before we get out of here, though, of course, we do the Florio Film Festival every single week. Laquan, I think he watched the movie. He wasn't here to talk about it. We'll have to ask him his thoughts about it, just like on a podcast or something like that. We watched The Big Lebowski this week, which I watched The Big Lebowski. I try to watch it like once or twice a year because it's one of my favorite movies. It is a Coen Brothers masterpiece. It is what I think Jeff Bridges was already having a great career, but I think it sort of elevated him to the next level. He will forever and always be the dude now because of this movie. But now you, having seen it for the first time, your thoughts on just a guy who loves to drive around, bowl, and have the occasional acid flashback.
The funny thing to me is he was awesome in the movie, but his two co-stars probably ended up being bigger names, I would imagine.
Well, I mean, John Goodman and Steve Buscemi, yeah. I mean, had awesome careers also, yeah.
I love the cast. I really enjoyed the movie. It's a wild concept. A whole lot about it was very out there, but it had me laughing. I would definitely watch it again. And like you had said, you were like, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you catch that you were like, oh, that's where that's from. And there was like, obviously that's just like your opinion, man. But when he's pouring out the ashes and he what's the line himself? He said like that?
There's a beverage here.
Which one?
Oh, there's a beverage here, but that's not the one you're thinking of. No.
Does he say "Stay golden, pony boy" when he pours out the ashes, or it's something like that? Like it's a very famous line now, and I'm always like Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV when I hear stuff that I'm like, that's where it's from.
That's where that came from. Yeah, no, it's great. Also, who is the greatest character to appear in a movie that really had nothing to do with the plot, and why is it Jesus Quintana?
He was awesome. What's the actor's name? Nick?
John Turturro.
Oh, yeah. When he came out the first time, I was like, he's in this too. Like, right? I got really excited. Also, the 90s were a great time if you were a bowler, I'm guessing, between this movie and Kingpin coming out.
Kingpin came out. Yeah, no, it was great. It's funny because I've been in Los Angeles long enough that the Hollywood Star Lanes where they did a lot of those scenes, I would go there because it was open 24 hours. It was like just a kind of cool hangout spot. And like you could be bowling there in the middle of the night and you might see like a celebrity show up and just bowl a couple of frames or something like that. Like it was sort of wild back in the day. Yeah, it's funny because John Turturro's in it for maybe 2.5, 3 minutes. He's not in the movie very long at all. He really has nothing to do with the story per se, but maybe the most memorable character in the entire movie.
And I had a pet ferret when I was a kid, so the ferret scene touched my heart. I was like that. Like there was a lot of stuff marmot. And seeing it's also, I think I have more of an appreciation from it now living in LA. I know last summer, a lot of the movies we did were LA based. And I think if I saw this movie 6 years ago, I would have been like, okay, But now living here and stuff, I'm like, oh, like this is, I know that place, like this is really cool. And yeah, I enjoy the movie, and I it's number 2 of the 3 that we've watched so far for me,
Okay.
because number 1 spot's probably already sealed with Godzilla -1. I love that movie. But yeah, this checked in at number 2 so far, because I'm still keeping the rankings, and definitely a movie that I would watch again. But I'd have to be in the right mindset.
Yeah, no, there's definitely, you kind of get your mind right for it to enjoy it on a different level. It's wild though that, I mean, I think it speaks to the level of movies we've watched so far that The Raid is number 3, because that was like a wild and awesome movie.
We haven't watched a bad movie yet.
We have not.
There's no offense to Laquan. There's no
was it The Last Action Hero?
Yes, that's it. There hasn't been one of those yet.
That wasn't good. No, that wasn't good. Yeah, so we'll have to figure out what the next movie is. I see somebody put Starman, which is like an old Jeff Bridges movie, like an old weird sci-fi Jeff Bridges movie where he's like an alien who comes to Earth and is like trying to figure out how to survive. We're not watching that. Anyway, yeah, I'm in the midst of a mock draft. A-Rod, I want to know if we're doing a mock draft or a money draft. We should probably do a mock draft, maybe not on this show, but on the podcast. At some point, I just made Jordan Love my 7th round pick in this mock draft. We'll see how this thing turns out. I'm trying to host the show and do a mock draft.
It's not easy.
Not recommended. I do not recommend it for anybody out there. But anyway, I think it's a good spot for us to take a pause for this week's edition of the Fantasy Cheat Sheet. We'll be back with you next week for the pod as well. I think we're going to start doing a couple a week soon.
Yep.
Just subscribe, subscribe, comment. You'll start to see them in your feed. So we're going to start doing a few of these a week. We'll still try to do the cheat sheet as much as possible, at least until we get to the season and our lives start looking sideways, and then we'll see how that goes from there. But in the meantime, thanks to Susie, as always, for putting this together. And Laquan, be safe, man.
Yes.
I hope Florida. Did you give him some spots to eat in Tampa? I know that's where he's going to be for the next couple.
I realized that he's probably too far from the places that I know, because my parents live like a little bit outside of Tampa. So if you're in the city, you probably don't want to drive 30 minutes for food. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fair. All right. In the meantime, that will do it. Wait, before we get out of here, I got to make one more pick. I'm on the clock in the 8th round, and I don't love these options. All right, here we go. James Conner, come on.
Take the dude.
I know, right? I should totally take the dude. Anyway, that'll do it for this edition of the Cheat Sheet for Florio and Marcus. Thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate you participating. Hang out. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you again real soon.